Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Christmas Decorate with me. This time I am decorating my front porch and entryway. This year I decided I really wanted a very rustic look on our front door. You may remember it on Instagram that I shared some of the items that I foraged for a wreath that I was going to be making. And it was just a wonderful day. We went out into the forest and I learned to forage for the first time with my husband's help. Just making sure that I was clipping things in a way that was preserving the health of any trees. And I had a lot of fun just collecting a whole variety of pine and fir, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a great day to be outdoors and to be able to collect your own craft supplies. What's better than that? For this DIY wreath, I used a grapevine wreath form, clippers, of course, scissors, as well as some twine we'll be using at the end, and 22 gauge craft wire. You also need an assortment of materials. These are the ones that I picked up, but you can use faux materials. I also brought out some gloves. It can be messy if you're using real materials, but I didn't end up using them, but had them there just in case. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the craft wire directly to the grapevine wreath. I just wove it in. It doesn't really matter how, and that way you can kind of secure it. Now, I use a pretty basic technique. I wrap the paddle around 3 times, and I won't be snipping the wire off until the very end. So I'm going to be creating bundles and attaching one bundle at a time to the wreath form. In order to create a fluffy wreath, I want the bundle to kind of fan out, so it's narrower at the bottom than it is at the top. And each bundle will be approximately using the same material. So I start off with the balsam, add some fir, and then I add some pine because I really love pine to show through. And then finally, I will add some cedar at the top. Now the cedar is a bit short, should be a little longer, but I'll explain to you in a moment why it should have been a bit longer. So you want it to fan out. You want to have a little bit kind of curved inward to kind of cover the wreath form, but the bulk of it will fan out. So grabbing my paddle wire, I will sort of try to get around some of the greenery so I don't crush it too much. And I'll go around 3 times and secure it very tightly because it will dry over time and you don't want your greenery to fall out. So grabbing my next bundle, which is pretty much the same as the first, I place it directly over that wire. I fan it out with the bulk of it going out, a little bit kind of curved in. And then I begin to wrap around 3 times as before. You'll notice that the cedar on top is long, so this way it's going to be showing through as I add more bundles on top. But you can see the bulk of the bundle goes out with just a little bit curving inside. And then rinse and repeat. Once I reach the end, I've got a little bit of space, so I'm going to be creating smaller bundles and kind of tucking them in the best that I can. So I'm tucking this one underneath the first bundle that I created, and I'm going to be doing that for the next 1 or 2 smaller bundles. Now, some people take this opportunity to create a really lovely ribbon right at that spot to cover that bald spot. But I like to, add smaller bundles just in case I decide not to do a ribbon. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, so I just kept adding smaller bundles and kind of bulking that area up. Now this is when you can snip off the wire from the paddle and just weave it in the best you can into the back side. I just grabbed any little bit of grapevine and wove it in, and voila, I was done. I decided to add a bit of a rustic touch with these pine cones that I also found in the forest, and here I am just kind of placing them, figuring out where I like them. Now you can attach them one of 2 ways. One is to hot glue them directly on, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to grab my paddle wire. I pulled out about I don't know, 10 inches or so, and began wrapping the wire into the bottom portion of the pine cone. And because I'm wrapping the midpoint of the craft wire, I have 2 tails left over, and I'm going to use those tails to wrap around the base of the wreath in a moment. So you'll see me doing that. So one tail I'm using to wrap along one side, and then the other tail along the bottom. And then I just twist both tails together at the back and then weave them in. Now here's another angle of me wrapping the base of the wreath form, with one wire going in one direction, the other wire going in the other, and then just twisting along the back. I wanted you to have this second view just in case that first one wasn't as clear. But I just twist, 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 and then eventually weave that into the back, grabbing a couple of grapevines so that the pine cone is securely attached. And then just continue attaching your pine cones in the same manner until you are all done. To attach your wreath on your door, just grab some twine and do an overhand knot, and then you're going to loop that twine around one of the grapevines. And now I was pretty much ready to decorate my front door and my entryway. Now, because our front porch will be covered in snow throughout winter, I only really wanted to create a small little rustic vignette right at the base of the door. Now, the inspiration for this vignette came from these 2 vintage sap buckets that were used in the 70s to collect maple syrup. I got these from somebody who sells these in various sizes, short and fat ones, which are the ones that I'm using, but also tall and narrow ones, and they're just perfect for a rustic vignette. And I'll leave a link in the description box for his contact details, as well as any other items that I'm using that you can find online. I added some firewood to the second sap bucket, and then I just added some scrap wood just to give my cedar topiary a little bit of height. And it happens to be a faux topiary. It is so realistic. I'll leave a link in the description box for that. And to finish things off, I'm using this old beat up lantern that I've had for a while, and I'm adding some of that white pine that I had foraged. And because this is a temporary vignette, I'm not too worried about it lasting through the winter season. And finally, here is my Christmas foraged wreath. I added a ribbon, and I'll be sharing how this all looks together at the end of the video. Next, I'm moving on to my entryway, which I rarely share with you guys because it's very narrow, and really it's where furniture goes to die, I often say to my husband. But I am going to be freshening things up here, starting with the addition of a new entryway bench that I found on Amazon of all places. Absolutely loved it. And I've got a real wreath theme going on here. I decided to create a wreath gallery wall, as it were, and I really wanted it to be asymmetrical and just pulling out all of the wreaths that I have collected over the years. I'm also going to be adding 2 small handmade wreaths. They're all made of faux materials, and I really wanted it to have a kind of eclectic vibe. And I wanted it to have a real impact so that when people walk through the door, the first thing they see will be this wall of wreaths. So here I am. I just grabbed a couple of embroidery hoops and my craft wire, the same craft wire that I used to create my foraged wreath. And I'm just making a couple of really delicate eucalyptus wreaths that will hang on the wall. With the exception of the first 2 wreaths, I'm just using 3M hooks to be able to hang the rest of the wreaths, and that way I can remove them afterwards without damaging the wall. And here is that gallery wall. I'm going to be adding a ribbon to one of them, but I really love the way it turned out. So I just grabbed my outdoor rug and placed it inside because I don't really have an indoor rug in the entryway. And then just decided to decorate around the gallery wall. Here you'll recognize these felt trees in my DIY dollar store challenge. I'll leave a link in the description box below so you can check that out. And I'm just decorating around the bench with some new items that I picked up at HomeSense Canada. I really love all that that you can find there, and some ribbon too, just to add a little touch of the season. Directly opposite the bench I have this buffet and this mirror, and so I'm just adding some trees that I've had for a while, and these really beautifully woven planters. I actually removed the legs for this particular vignette, but I found them on Amazon and they're absolutely gorgeous. And there's that DIY elf hat that I made for the dollar store challenge, and I'll leave a link in the description box below. You can check out all of my crafts. And then finally, I grabbed that side table and decided to use it as a little bench. And also this faux greenery, I just wrapped some twine around it and then hung it up and called it a day. And here is the final reveal of our front door and entryway, all dressed up for a rustic Christmas look. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed today's Christmas Decorate With Me video. I've got a couple more coming for the Christmas season, so don't forget to subscribe. See you all in the next video.